I don't know why I do this, but I just cannot help but rewatch the series and TV shows and movies that I've already watched multiple times, and I can't help but rewatch them. I cannot start anything new. I don't know why I do that, and I don't really know a way to stop except one, that is talking to someone in excruciating detail about that particular series, and then somehow, for some reason, my brain just lets it go. I don't know how that happens. But a problem with that is most people don't really want to hear me talk about some random series for 2 hours straight. So instead of doing that in real life, I'm gonna do it here. So I hope you enjoy. In this video, I want to talk about a post apocalyptic sci fi Netflix series called Travelers. Now, if you have not seen this series, you will notice some themes coming up in the series, mainly about AI, and there is a huge section about pandemic. And I need to make sure that you know this series came before COVID. This series came before the AI banana craze that's going on right now. Okay? And it's so incredible. I just feel like the series came out at the wrong time. I feel like if it came out maybe a year ago or something, it would be huge right now. Basically, it is a sci fi apocalyptic future series, but with time travel thrown in as well. And it's absolutely amazing. Let me just talk about it with you guys, okay? So, the series is set in an apocalyptic future where human beings are almost extinct. The ones that are left decide to build an AI that is super intelligent, that can calculate bajillion times more than you and I can even freaking comprehend, okay? And what this AI is going to do is it's going to make changes in the past so that humanity is on the quote unquote optimal path forward. How's it going to do that? You might be questioning. This is where time travel comes in, and it's actually very unique and interesting the way that time travel works in this series. Essentially, the AI's name is the director, by the way. So, what the director does is it takes the consciousness of the person in the past, right, overwrites it with the consciousness of the person from the future. So, that's how the time travel happens. When the consciousness is transferred or overwritten, the memories of the host, quote unquote, the past human, are also overwritten. And in the future, there are skilled operatives who are trained specifically for this purpose so that they could go back into the past and help save humanity. What the director's main function is, it's to calculate everything, all the timelines, all the possible outcomes, and help put humanity on an optimal path. The director has control over every aspect of the traveler's life, not just in the past, but also of people in the future. It gives travelers missions that they have to complete, things that they have to do. Quite literally, the travelers, they have to take an oath to the director that they'll do exactly what the director wants. The travelers who arrive in the past, they have rules to follow as well, protocols that they cannot break, and if they do, the director can essentially kill them if it sees fit. By killed, I mean overridden. Essentially, when this consciousness transfer happens, the host candidate, the host consciousness, it dies. That person, that personality, they don't exist anymore. It's just a hollow shell, which is filled by another consciousness. It is quite dystopian, yes, definitely, absolutely, I agree with you. So, Jean, is this AI really just taking host candidates, aka past human living beings, and just killing them so that it could make room for future consciousness to arrive in that body? The answer is yes. And yes, it sounds very unethical, like, goddamn, a machine should not be able to do it. You might have the question of, well, how is that ethical in any way? And I do agree with you. They somehow sort of make it kind of a little bit not really sound ethical by saying that the director can only consider somebody as a host, as a potential host, if they are about to die. Now, that does sound very ethical if you think about it, like taking a life right before it's about to die. Well, I mean, that kind of sounds ethical. Why I think it's not ethical is because of the following reasoning. We see this in one of the episodes, I forget which one, but it's the episode where McLaren and his team are going to get killed by the faction. Okay, so essentially, well, let's say a traveler arrives into the past and they accidentally killed somebody. It wasn't on purpose. They didn't, it just happened. Now, because there is at least one timeline where that other person who was not supposed to die and was not going to die ends up dying, now the director, the AI, can consider that person as a host. Even though, if the director hadn't interfered, that person was going to live. But because the director interfered, indirectly, that person died, and now that person is now a potential host. You see the logic? Like, one of the other examples from the series, it's season 2. It's right at the end of season 1, beginning of season 2. The director built a machine with lots of safeguards, and this machine was then discovered by the FBI. And when the FBI tried to examine the machine and try to figure out what it is and what it does, those safeguards ended up killing all of the FBI agents, and they all became host candidates. I mean, it's kind of funny if you think about it. Like, it's like the director planted a bomb in the past and then set it off. And because, oh, there exists at least one timeline where all of these people died, so now all of these people are now host candidates. You see the circular logic. There, finally. But do you see my point? I mean, that's kind of why I was saying that it only sounds ethical, but it's not quite really ethical if you think about it. You know, we're talking a lot about the AI going into the past and changing the timeline. Now let me talk about the logistics of it all. Sounds boring, but it's actually kind of interesting. So one of the first questions that came to my mind when I was watching this series, but I didn't think about it for too long because it was answered pretty quickly, was, well, look, this AI is extremely smart. This AI is amazing. Anything and everything and things I can't even imagine, it can calculate. Come on, it's the best thing in the entire universe, probably. So if the future is in the hands of this AI, this director, shouldn't future be all okay, all good? You know? And the answer is no. And actually, the director failed in the series. Spoiler alert, yes, it failed. So the question is, well, why? If you have all the information, you should be able to calculate, the best possible outcome and then, lead us on that path, right? The answer is yeah. I mean, if it had all the information in the entire universe, probably it would have done a good job of it, but the thing is, it didn't. That's where it failed, I believe. At least in the series. If the director is blinded and does not have all the information, of course it makes sense that it'll make decisions that, don't favor the best outcome. Of course. And that's where the director in the series fails, because it was blinded. It did not have all the information. And the information that the director does have is based on information available on the internet and historical record. As the series goes on, we do learn that there are key pieces of information that the director simply did not have. An example that I can think of is what happens with Marcy. She's one of the characters, one of the team members that we are following. The director sent a consciousness into the body of Marcy Warden. According to her social media page, she was a librarian, and according to historical record, she was going to die outside her workplace when a group of men attacked her. The incoming consciousness arrived, Marcy defended herself, and went home. In this timeline, Marcy survived because the incoming traveler's consciousness was able to defend herself. Turns out the social media page was not real. In reality, Marcy Wharton is a mentally disabled woman in the care of the state. Yeah, director sent a skilled operative, a traveler, into the body of someone who has neurological disabilities. The ironic part is that Marcy is the medic of the group. Travelers who are working in the past, they are usually divided into teams. Each team has like a leader, medic, engineer, tactician, and a historian. And Marcy is the medic. She's the doctor. You gotta understand this. She's able to test herself and diagnose the condition, and her condition is severe enough that there isn't a cure. There is no cure in the future. The director sent her into a body like that. The only thing that she can do now is buy herself time. And that also involves taking out these painful fluids out of her spinal cord. And yeah, it is horrifying. One more example. I have to do this. Philip Pearson was going to die of an overdose after trying heroin for the first time. The director sent an incoming traveler into that body. And guess what? Turns out that Philip was a drug addict. He's the historian of the group, and now he's pretty much fucked. During the show, we see this kind of kinship. I don't know how to really describe it, but Marcy and Philip both are in the same team. Both are fucked over by the director. Both, they're suffering, and it's not their fault. And so we see this sort of like bond develop between them. It's really sad. Anyways, I'm sorry I went off on that a little too much. But the point is the director can make But anyways, the point is that the director can make mistakes. It is not perfect. Another question that you might have is, well, if the director is able to go back into the past and, change things to make sure that we're on an optimal path, but it does make mistakes like with Marcy and with Philip, can't it just go back and, change it again? That's a really good question. But its answer is sort of an in-universe answer. Essentially, the director can only go as far back as the arrival point of the most recent traveler. It makes sense in my head, because if that was not the case, then definitely, literally anything the director can do is reversible, so there is no stakes involved. Anything that happens to our team, anything that we see that's bad and horrible, whatever, dude, the director can just go back in time and fix it. I can already tell that this video is getting long, even though I've just started. It feels like I've just started. I want to talk about one more thing and then I'll stop. So far, we've talked a lot about the AI and the bigger picture things. But in the series itself, those big picture concepts aren't really what we spend the most time on. What the series really focuses on is what's happening on the ground. We mainly follow a single traveler team and we watch them how they get accustomed to the 21st century and slowly adjust to lives that were never meant to be theirs. When the future consciousness is sent back into the past, they are basically taking over a random person's life. They are inhabiting bodies that already have histories, relationships, responsibilities. Essentially, they are taking over a random person's life. And because consciousness transfer, when it occurs, it overwrites the host's memories, and only the memories of the traveler remains. They are flying blind. They don't know how the person interacts with the world, their loved ones. When this consciousness transfer occurs, it's as if the host candidate dies. Their personality, their memories, it's all gone. It's replaced with someone else's consciousness and memories. And if you are a loved one of the host candidate, well, it's like talking to an imposter. They have the same body, same voice, same face, but it's not them. There are a lot of these interpersonal complications and stuff that I could go into. And I really want to talk about it, but this video is getting long. So I'm just going to talk about one that's between McLaren and his wife. McLaren is the team lead of the group that we're following. Special Agent Grant McLaren is an FBI agent who was going to die in pursuit of a shooter. Instead, he was saved by the travelers, and Special Agent Grant McLaren's consciousness was overwritten by Traveler 3468. And the team that we're following, we see lots of different scenarios and lots of different cases. In McLaren's case, well, he had a wife of almost 10 years. we see him first entering his house, quote unquote his house, and how he can't go upstairs to sleep in the bedroom. So he crashes on the couch. And in the morning, Kat, McLaren's wife, and Traveler 3468 in the body of Agent Grant McLaren have their first interaction. And from the very beginning, we can see that Kat is noticing things, differences in her husband. In the very first interaction, he calls her Catherine when he always called her Kat.
Yeah, sure. That's great, Catherine.
Catherine?
What?
You haven't called me by my full name since our first date.
Yeah, what's that about?
Another thing is he doesn't like drinking cow's milk or any animal products or byproducts when he used to be a man who used to love steak. As the time goes on, Kat starts noticing more and more changes in Grant, her husband, who she thought had no mystery left in him. It doesn't take a very long amount of time for her to basically figure out something is going on, which I like. Really, I cannot tell you that I am so fucking happy that people who wrote this series did not make Kat this fucking baboon who just like goes along with everything and like, oh, my husband has changed everything about him, and she just like goes along with it. It's just, I am so happy that they did not make Kat like that. That's this one fucking movie. It also has to do with time travel and romance. Essentially, this guy wants this girl, okay, and he wants to date her, okay, and he can time travel. Apparently, everybody in his paternal family can time travel. When he asks her out, she says no because, quote unquote, it's end of the summer. And then he asks in the beginning, and then she says no because it's a little too early. He does not take a fucking hint. He does not take a fucking hint that she's not interested in him, man. Like, come on, dude. You keep asking again and again, and then what he fucking does is so insane and creepy. Using his time travel abilities, he tries to learn everything about her little by little. He treats her like a fucking video game where he can just rerun the scenario again and again until he has the perfect responses to her questions, and so that they would click. And in the final date, that's what happens. And it's so creepy. But from her perspective, this is the first time that they're going on a date. To her, everything seems perfect. They both seem to click so well. They both have similar interests. It seems magical to her. But what happened in reality is that he fucking manufactured it. He manufactured it. Okay, it's not real. Okay. Oh, okay. And in the end, it was shown as sort of like a good romantic thing. I can't even. I'm gonna make a whole video on that one fucking movie, which I can't remember the name of, and you rant over. Anyways, I'm just happy that they did not make Kat this fucking baboon who would just like go along with everything. I would have killed somebody. Because if you really think about it, Kat has been married to McLaren for 10 years. Of course she knows him inside and out better than he even knows himself. And then suddenly somebody else takes over the consciousness and the memories of your husband. It's like a completely different person in you that just has your husband's body and shape, but inside it's completely different person. And she sort of figures it out. She thinks that Grant is cheating, which in her head it makes sense, because an AI sending a traveler's consciousness into the body of your husband seems a little too far-fetched. So cheating, that makes sense. People keeping secrets, behavioral changes, that adds up. It all adds up, okay? So it doesn't take her long to figure out at least something is going on, that her husband is not the same, and they're on the verge of divorce. They're separated. It's interesting that we see Traveler 3468. I'm just gonna call him Grant or McLaren from now on. He starts to really fall in love with her. It happens slowly, but it does happen. And in the series, we see that he chooses to save Kat's life over his own, even though he was given explicit directions by the director to not do so.
Traveler 3468, you're off mission.
He takes a risk with his life, but he makes sure that Kat is safe. He had suffered multiple injuries and on the verge of death, and something interesting happens. Traveler 3468's consciousness was given refuge into the memories of Special Agent Grant McLaren. Now, not all memories, almost all of them were overwritten. These were just the brightest shards that survived the incoming consciousness. And all of those memories are about how much he loved his wife. There are things that he regretted, like him leaving for work when she wanted him to be there, like dealing with miscarriage. They both wanted a kid so badly, but it didn't happen, and it's so heartbreaking. Oh my god. This portion of the series where they talk about the miscarriage and how much they wanted kids, and the set nursery room and Grant putting it all away. It's all just so heartbreaking. Towards the end, when he's just about to wake up, Cat, not the real cat, but the cat in his head, say,
I loved you so much.
He did. They're his memories, not yours.
So why can't I tell the difference?
he really did love her. Maybe not in the beginning, but he did. And her decision to still leave him is also valid because he is not the man that she loved. He is not the man that she fell in love with. If it was in a movie or a TV show, I feel like the writers would just write it as, oh, he fell in love with her, so that's okay, that makes it okay. And they would live happily ever after. And I don't think that would happen. And I feel like if they wrote it that way, then that would diminish Cat's agency. If you can pinpoint like a genre or a trope name about this, let me know. Anywho, I'll stop now. 47 minutes! I've been recording for 47 minutes. Let's see how much of this audio survives the editing process. Ooh. Anywho, if you want to hear me ramble on more, yeah, subscribe and stuff. Turn on the notification bell and more stuff. I don't know what stuff. Anywho, I have been kinda off and on this channel. I feel like taking the break when I did was a good thing in the end, but it also put me in a really bad spot, like creatively speaking. During this time, I it's not like I haven't been making videos, I have been. It's just that somewhere during the editing process, I feel like, oh my god, this video is not good enough. I need to re-record it or just blah 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 blah. I need to do all the shenanigans. And then when it's perfect, when it's absolutely perfect, I can release it. And it's just like I need to get over it. I talked to my therapist about it, and she's like, that's the creative process. That's literally the creative process. That does sound like the creative process. That's literally the thing that ContraPoints talked about with SpongeBob and Squidward. If you don't know the reference, I'm sorry. Okay. I will see you guys later. Okay? Okay. Okay, I think that's all. I will end this video now. Bye bye.